Have you ever felt the sting of a sharp word? The kind that replays in your mind for hours, maybe even days, long after it was spoken? Or the heavy ache of a betrayal, a ghost that sits on your chest and makes it hard to breathe? We've all been there. We've all felt that raw, exposed feeling of being hurt by someone else's actions, by their carelessness, by their deliberate cruelty. And in those moments, it feels like our peace has been stolen, like a piece of our inner world has been broken by an outside force. We feel like a victim, tossed around by the whims and words of others, waiting for the world to be kinder before we can feel whole again. But what if that entire story is a lie? What if the power to harm you was never in their hands to begin with? What if the pain you feel isn't a direct consequence of what they did, but a consequence of a choice you made in the silence of your own mind? The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, a man who faced war, plague, betrayal, and the crushing weight of an empire, wrote a private note to himself that holds one of the most powerful secrets to inner peace ever recorded. He said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." That idea is so simple it's almost offensive. It feels like it dismisses our pain, but it doesn't. It gives us the key to transcending it. It suggests that the final verdict on whether you are harmed doesn't come from the outside world, it comes from you. This isn't a trick, it's a tool. A piece of mental armor so strong that once you learn how to wear it, nothing can touch your core. It's about understanding that while you can't control what people do, you have absolute power over what it means. This is the shift from reacting to life to leading it. It's the difference between being a leaf in the wind and being the mountain that the wind breaks against. If you've ever felt tired of giving your peace away, tired of letting others live rent-free in your head, then you are in the right place. We are about to dismantle the illusion of harm, piece by piece. And if this is the kind of deep, transformative work you value, if it speaks to a part of you that knows it's ready for more, there's a simple, free way to support this journey together. Just hit that subscribe button. It helps this space grow and ensures you don't miss the clarity we're building here. Let's begin. Let's start with the event itself. The insult is thrown, the promise is broken, the trust is shattered. In that first second, there is a raw stimulus. A sound hits your ears. An action unfolds before your eyes. That is reality. But the harm doesn't live in that reality. It's born in the story you tell yourself immediately after. This is the battlefield of perception. Most of us don't even realize a battle is happening. We think the event and the feeling are one and the same. Someone calls you a failure, and the feeling of being a failure seems to be an immediate and unavoidable result. But the Stoics taught that there is a sacred space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies our power. The philosopher Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and understood suffering on a level most of us never will, said it perfectly. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. He wasn't saying the things that happen aren't painful. He was saying the disturbance is our own creation. The event is the spark. The story we tell ourselves is the fuel we pour on it. The initial sting of an insult is just a signal, but the narrative that follows, "They don't respect me, I'm worthless. Everyone thinks I'm a joke," that's the inferno. And that inferno is one you can choose not to build. Think of it like this. Plato, in his famous allegory, described prisoners in a cave who spent their entire lives watching shadows on a wall, mistaking those flickering images for reality. Our emotional reactions are often just like that. We're not reacting to the person or the event. We're reacting to the terrifying shadow it casts in our minds. The shadow of rejection, the shadow of humiliation, the shadow of inadequacy. But a shadow has no substance. It can't touch you. It can only frighten you if you believe it's real. When you choose not to be harmed, you are choosing to turn around and look at the fire, not the shadows. You're choosing to see the event for what it is, external, separate, and ultimately neutral. Words are just vibrations in the air until you assign them meaning. Someone's opinion is just a collection of their own thoughts, shaped by their own experiences, biases, and inner turmoil. It's information about them, not a verdict on you. This is where the work lies. Carl Jung, the brilliant psychologist, wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." For most people, feeling harmed is fate. It's an unconscious, automatic reflex. The insult happens, the pain follows. That's just the way it is. But when you apply this Stoic principle, you are making that process conscious. You are catching the story before it takes root. You are noticing the urge to feel diminished, and you are choosing, deliberately, to let that urge pass. You are deciding that your inner peace is more valuable than validating someone else's negativity. The first time you do this, it feels unnatural. You feel the sting, and your mind desperately wants to build the familiar story of victimhood. But you hold still, you breathe, you observe the feeling without becoming it. You say to yourself, an event has occurred, words were spoken, now I will decide what they mean. And in that moment of decision, you take your power back. The harm, which was about to be created, dissolves. You haven't been harmed because you chose not to participate in the act of harming yourself. Most of us live with a quiet, devastating misunderstanding. We believe our peace of mind is a fragile thing, held in the clumsy hands of everyone we meet. A boss's criticism, a partner's mood, a stranger's rude comment. We think these things have the inherent power to ruin our day, to wound our spirit. We give them that power freely, and then we wonder why we feel so powerless. We wait for an apology to feel better. We hope they'll regret what they did so we can finally have closure. We are, in essence, handing the keys to our own inner citadel to people who don't even know they have them. Marcus Aurelius's wisdom flips this on its head. Choose not to be harmed isn't about pretending the event didn't happen. It's about recognizing that the event happens out there while your peace lives in here. And there is an impenetrable wall between the two unless you are the one who opens the gate. The Stoic philosopher Seneca spoke often of anger, calling it a temporary madness. He found it absurd that we would get angry at people and events that are completely indifferent to our rage. Your anger doesn't punish them, it punishes you. Your feeling of being harmed doesn't change what they did, it only poisons your present moment. When you truly grasp this, you stop seeing your emotional state as a weapon to be used against others and start seeing it as a garden to be cultivated for yourself. You realize that waiting for an apology is a prison of your own making. You are putting your freedom on hold, contingent on an action from someone who has already demonstrated they don't have your best interests at heart. They've moved on while you sit in a cell, rattling the bars, hoping they'll come back and unlock the door. The Stoic insight is that the door was never locked. You can walk out whenever you choose. The closure you're looking for isn't in their apology. It's in your decision to no longer require one. This is the ultimate form of self-respect. It's the declaration that your inner world is sovereign territory. What happens outside is just weather. You can't control the storm, but you can tend to the fire within your own shelter. This is the inner citadel Marcus Aurelius spoke of, that fortress of the mind where, if you retreat, you can find unshakable tranquility. But you have to build that fortress, and the building blocks are your choices. Aristotle taught that excellence is not an act, but a habit. The same is true for resilience. You don't just decide once to be unshakable, you practice it. You practice it with small annoyances, the driver who cuts you off, the Wi-Fi that drops during a meeting. You see the flash of irritation and you choose not to follow it. You practice it with bigger wounds, the friend who lets you down, the opportunity that falls through. You acknowledge the disappointment, but you refuse to weave it into a story of being a victim. You refuse to let it define you. Socrates' famous maxim, "Know thyself," is the foundation of this practice. When you truly know who you are at your core, you understand that your worth, your character, your essence is untouchable. Someone's opinion cannot diminish it. A failure cannot erase it. A betrayal cannot corrupt it. These things happen to you, but they are not you. Harm can only reach you if you confuse the two. When you stop identifying with the external event, it loses its power. You realize that you were never harmed because the real you, the essential you, was never in danger. The only thing that was ever at risk was the story you told yourself about who you are, and you are the author of that story. This sounds powerful in theory, but how do you actually apply it when your heart is pounding and your mind is screaming that you've been wronged? How do you build this armor in the heat of the moment? It's not a single act, but a sequence of disciplined thoughts, a mental martial art. The first move is the pause. When the stimulus hits, the insult, the bad news, the broken promise, your immediate instinct is to react, to defend, to attack, to crumble. The pause is a conscious, deliberate refusal to do any of those things. It might only last for a single breath, but in that breath, everything changes. You are creating a space between the world and your response. You are stepping back from the control panel instead of mashing the emergency button. This space is where your freedom lives. You're not suppressing the emotion. You're simply giving yourself a moment to choose whether you want to be ruled by it. Once you have that space, you execute the second move, the reframe. Harm, remember, is the story you tell yourself. The reframe is the art of consciously rewriting that story in real time. It's about taking the initial, painful interpretation and replacing it with one that serves you. Let's say a colleague takes credit for your work. The initial story is, "They betrayed me, I've been wronged, my boss thinks I did nothing." This story creates feelings of anger, helplessness, and resentment. Now let's reframe it. A stoic reframe might sound like this: "They have demonstrated their character, not mine. An ambitious person did an ambitious thing. This is an opportunity for me to observe, to learn about them, and to decide how I will protect my work in the future without sacrificing my peace." But notice the difference. The first story is about victimhood. The second is about observation, strategy, and empowerment. "They rejected me" becomes "our paths were not aligned." "They insulted my intelligence" becomes "they have a different perspective, and their opinion is not a fact." "This is a disaster" becomes "this is an unexpected challenge that I have the tools to navigate." The reframe isn't about lying to yourself. It's about finding the most empowering and useful truth. As Carl Jung wisely noted, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." The reframe is that choice in action. The third move, and perhaps the most powerful, is the zoom out. The Stoics called it the view from above. When you're caught in the drama of a moment, it feels all-consuming. The zoom out is the practice of mentally lifting yourself out of the situation and seeing it from a vast, cosmic perspective. Imagine looking down on yourself from high above. You see your city, your country, the planet, a tiny blue marble in an ocean of silent, swirling galaxies. From that vantage point, how big is your problem really? That hurtful comment, that missed opportunity, how much does it weigh in the grand scheme of your entire life, let alone all of human history? This isn't to diminish your feelings, but to right-size the problem. It drains the drama out of the event. It reminds you that most of our suffering comes from a loss of perspective. We get so zoomed in on the problem that it becomes our entire world. The view from above reminds us that we are part of a much larger, more complex, and ultimately indifferent universe. This can be profoundly calming. It helps you detach from the ego's need to be right or to be vindicated, and allows you to reconnect with a state of tranquil objectivity. Practicing these three moves, The pause, the reframe, and the zoom out is how you train yourself not to feel harmed. It's how you take the abstract philosophy of Marcus Aurelius and turn it into a concrete, applicable skill. And with every repetition, the armor gets stronger, the space gets wider, and your peace becomes less and less dependent on the chaotic world outside. At this point, a natural objection arises. Are you just telling me to suppress my emotions, to pretend I'm not hurt when I am, to become a cold, unfeeling robot? This is a critical misunderstanding, and it's where many people stumble on the path of stoicism. Choosing not to be harmed is not the same as choosing not to feel. Feeling is a natural biological process. Pain, sadness, disappointment, these are signals. If you touch a hot stove, the pain you feel is immediate, real, and useful. It's your body telling you to move your hand. It would be foolish to choose not to feel that pain. The feeling is simply data. The harm, however, is the story you build on top of that feeling. The harm is holding your burned hand and deciding, I am a victim of this stove. The world is a dangerous place. I'll never be able to use my hand properly again. The harm is the narrative of suffering you choose to attach to the initial pain. Let's apply this to an emotional wound. Someone you love leaves you. The initial feeling is pain, grief, sadness. These are natural responses to loss, like the pain of a burn. A Stoic doesn't deny these feelings. Seneca wrote extensively about grief, acknowledging it as a natural process. He would advise you to feel the pain, to allow the sadness to be present. But he would also warn against extending that pain unnecessarily. Choosing not to be harmed means you feel the sadness of the loss, but you refuse to build the narrative that says, I am worthless without them. I will never find love again. My life is over. That is the harm. That is the optional suffering. You acknowledge the pain of the wound, but you refuse to keep sticking your finger in it to make sure it still hurts. Carl Jung's concept of integrating the shadow is relevant here. Your pain, your grief, your anger, these are parts of your shadow. Ignoring them or suppressing them doesn't work. They will fester and erupt in other ways. Integrating them means looking at them, acknowledging them, and understanding their message without letting them take control of the entire house. You can say, I feel immense sadness right now, without having to say, I am sad. The first statement acknowledges a passing emotional state. The second creates an identity. This is a subtle but profound distinction. You are not your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. You are the consciousness that is experiencing the feeling. When you create that separation, you can feel a powerful emotion without being drowned by it. You can let it pass through you like a storm cloud, knowing that you are the sky, not the cloud. The sky is not harmed by the storm. Aristotle's philosophy of the golden mean also applies. He argued that virtue is found in the balance between two extremes. In this context, one extreme is emotional suppression, pretending you feel nothing. The other extreme is emotional indulgence, wallowing in your feelings and letting them become your entire reality. The Stoic path, the path of choosing not to be harmed, is the golden mean. It is feeling what is real, acknowledging the pain, but then using your rational mind to choose a response that is wise, resilient, and ultimately peaceful. It is the practice of emotional alchemy, transforming the raw, painful data of your feelings into the gold of wisdom and inner strength. You're not ignoring the fire. You're just refusing to let it burn your house down. What happens when you truly master this? What does a life look like when you have embodied the principle that nothing external can truly harm you? It's not a life free of problems, but a life free of the drama of problems. It is a quiet, unshakable form of freedom. First, you are freed from the tyranny of other people's opinions. The praise doesn't inflate you and the criticism doesn't crush you. You can listen to feedback, extract what is useful, and discard the rest without an emotional charge. You no longer walk into a room wondering, do they like me? Instead, you walk in with the quiet confidence of knowing that you like yourself, and that is enough. This doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you stable. You become a source of gravity in a world of scattered energy. Second, you are freed from the poison of resentment. Grudges are heavy. They are stories of past harm that we choose to carry into our present, forcing us to relive the pain over and over again. When you realize that you were never truly harmed, the grudge has nothing to hold on to. It dissolves. You can forgive people not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be at peace. You stop seeing them as villains who wronged you and start seeing them as flawed human beings who acted from their own pain and ignorance. This compassion is a natural byproduct of your own invulnerability. Third, you are freed from the exhausting act of trying to control the uncontrollable. You stop trying to manage other people's behavior. You stop getting frustrated when the world doesn't conform to your expectations. You focus your energy where it has maximum impact, on your own choices, your own responses, your own character. This is the essence of what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. You accept what you cannot change, and you take radical responsibility for what you can. The result is a profound sense of peace and efficiency. You stop wasting energy on battles you can never win. Imagine moving through your day with this mindset. A project at work fails. Instead of despair, you feel curiosity. What can I learn from this? Someone is rude to you in traffic. Instead of rage, you feel a flicker of indifference. They must be having a difficult day. You are disappointed by a friend. Instead of betrayal, you feel clarity. I now have more accurate information about the nature of our relationship. This is not a fantasy. This is what it means to live inside your inner citadel. You become a fortress of tranquility. Life's arrows will still fly. They will still hit the walls of your fortress, but they will never reach the quiet center where you reside. Epictetus taught that the goal of philosophy is freedom. This is that freedom in its purest form. It's the emotional freedom that comes from knowing, deep in your bones, that your peace is your own. It was never theirs to take. To summarize, the world will present you with endless opportunities to feel harmed. People will be careless. Life will be unpredictable. Your own mind will, by default, rush to create stories of victimhood and pain. But Marcus Aurelius's profound insight hands the power back to you. Harm is not what happens to you, it is the meaning you assign to it. It is a choice. You make this choice by creating a pause between the event and your reaction. You make it by consciously reframing the story into one that empowers you. You make it by zooming out and remembering the vastness of the world and the shortness of life, putting your temporary troubles into their proper perspective. This is not about denying pain. It is about refusing to let pain curdle into suffering. It is about acknowledging your feelings without becoming them. The life this unlocks is one of quiet strength. It is a life where you are no longer a puppet of circumstance. You are the calm center of your own universe, unshakable and free. The ultimate power is not the ability to control the world outside, but the discipline to command the world within. So the next time the sting of an event tempts you to feel harmed, remember the emperor's words. Remember that you are the final judge. The event is just a proposal. You can decline, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. That is not just a quote. It is a declaration of your freedom.